Los Angeles International Airport, better known as LAX, was alive with its characteristic symphony of sounds and motion. The sprawling terminal was a maze of people rushing to catch flights, families bidding emotional goodbyes, and travelers navigating the endless corridors with an air of determination. The clatter of rolling luggage, the hum of conversations in dozens of languages, and the occasional sharp tone of a boarding announcement created a chaotic yet strangely rhythmic atmosphere. Amid this commotion, the first-class lounge stood as an island of tranquility, its entrance guarded by sleek glass doors that separated the privileged few from the masses. Inside, the air was cooler, the lighting softer, and the ambiance unmistakably exclusive. Plush leather chairs were arranged in cozy clusters, and the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the subtle scent of luxury perfumes. Here, time seemed to slow down, offering passengers a moment of calm before their long-haul journeys. Sitting confidently in one of the lounge's most comfortable seats was Oliver Bennett, a man who prided himself on exuding success in every aspect of his life. His presence demanded attention, whether it was due to his impeccably tailored suit, a custom creation from a renowned Milanese designer, or the way he carried himself with an air of unshakable self-assurance. His polished leather shoes shone so brightly they reflected the surrounding decor, and his wrist sported a watch that likely cost more than most people's annual salaries. For Oliver, this wasn't just another day of travel. It was an opportunity to assert his status. He thrived on the silent admiration, or envy, of others. As he casually sipped his espresso from a ceramic cup, he glanced around the lounge, his sharp eyes assessing the other passengers. Oliver's success was no secret. As the founder and CEO of a tech startup that had recently been valued at over $1 billion, he was a rising star in Silicon Valley. His achievements were well documented on his social media profiles, where he showcased a lifestyle filled with private jets, exotic vacations, and motivational quotes superimposed over breathtaking landscapes. To Oliver, the world was a stage, and he was the star performer. Everything he did, from the way he dressed to the way he spoke, was carefully curated to project an image of effortless dominance. Yet on this particular day, Oliver had no idea that his carefully constructed world was about to be shaken by an unexpected encounter. The boarding announcement for Oliver's flight crackled over the lounge's sound system, its calm and professional tone a stark contrast to the chaos outside. He stood up, adjusting his suit jacket with a practiced motion, and confidently made his way to the gate. The flight attendants greeted him warmly, their polished smiles and respectful nods reinforcing his sense of importance. "Good afternoon, Mr. Bennett. Welcome aboard," one of them said as she gestured toward the first-class cabin. Oliver acknowledged her with a curt nod, not bothering to return the smile. He stepped into the plane and immediately felt the familiar comfort of first-class luxury. The cabin was an oasis of space and privacy, with seats that reclined fully into beds, personal entertainment systems, and a menu that rivaled that of a high-end restaurant. Oliver made his way to seat 2A, one of the most coveted spots, and began the ritual of arranging his belongings. His laptop, noise-canceling headphones, and a leather-bound notebook, all within easy reach. As he settled into his seat, Oliver couldn't help but glance at the adjacent one, 2B. For now it was empty, and he secretly hoped it would remain that way. Having an entire row to himself would be the ultimate indulgence. However, just as the final boarding announcements were being made, a latecomer entered the cabin. The man who took the seat next to Oliver was an unassuming figure, dressed in a plain gray hoodie, faded jeans, and sneakers that had clearly seen better days. He carried a simple backpack rather than the designer luggage favored by most first-class passengers. A baseball cap obscured much of his face, adding to his understated appearance. He moved with quiet confidence, neither seeking attention nor avoiding it, and settled into seat 2B with minimal fuss. Oliver glanced at his new neighbor and immediately felt a twinge of irritation. In his mind, first class was a domain reserved for people like him, those who had earned their place through hard work, ambition, and success. This man, with his casual attire and nondescript demeanor, seemed entirely out of place. Probably upgraded at the last minute, Oliver thought dismissively. Or maybe he's a lottery winner, As the plane taxied to the runway, Oliver's curiosity got the better of him. He turned to the man, a practiced smile on his face, and initiated a conversation. "So," he began, his tone deliberately friendly but laced with an undertone of superiority, "what brings you to Tokyo?" The man looked up from his book, his expression calm and polite. "Business," he replied simply. "Ah, business," Oliver said, leaning back in his seat. "What kind of business are you in?" "Tech," the man replied, offering no further details. Oliver's interest was piqued, but not in a good way. To him, the man's vague answers were a challenge. He decided to dig deeper, partly out of curiosity, but mostly out of a desire to assert his own dominance in the conversation. "I'm in tech too," Oliver said, his voice taking on a more self-assured tone. "In fact, my company just hit $1 billion valuation. It's been a whirlwind, but you know how it is in this industry, always staying ahead of the curve." The man nodded politely but said nothing, his lack of reaction unsettling Oliver. Not one to be ignored, Oliver decided to steer the conversation toward a topic he was sure would elicit a response. "You know," he began, his tone now tinged with arrogance, "there's a lot of hype around certain figures in tech. Take Elon Musk, for example. People act like he's some kind of genius, but honestly, he's just good at self-promotion. SpaceX question mark, a vanity project. Tesla? Overrated. And don't even get me started on Twitter. What a disaster that's been." The man listened silently, his expression unreadable. There was a flicker of amusement in his eyes, but he said nothing, allowing Oliver to continue his tirade. As the flight attendants began serving drinks, one of them approached the man in 2B with a warm smile. She leaned down and spoke in a respectful tone. "Mr. Musk," she said, "the captain wanted me to let you know that your connection in Tokyo is confirmed. If there's anything else you need, please don't hesitate to ask." Oliver froze. The words hung in the air, sinking into his mind with excruciating slowness. He turned to the man beside him, his eyes wide with shock. "Elon Musk?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. The man removed his baseball cap, revealing his unmistakable face. He looked at Oliver, his expression calm and composed. "That's me," he said simply, before returning to his book. Oliver felt his stomach drop, his face flushed with embarrassment as the realization of his mistake hit him like a freight train. Oliver struggled to find the right words. "Mr. Musk, he stammered, his voice shaky. "I didn't realize it was you. I'm so sorry for what I said earlier. I didn't mean any of it." Elon looked at him, his expression thoughtful but not unkind. "It's all right," he said. "Everyone's entitled to their opinions." "No, really," Oliver insisted. "What I said was out of line. I have nothing but respect for you and everything you've achieved." Elon studied him for a moment before replying. "You know," he said, his tone calm but firm, "what you say about others often reflects more about you than it does about them. Maybe next time, think about why you feel the need to criticize. Success isn't about tearing others down. It's about building something meaningful." The words struck Oliver deeply. He realized in that moment how much of his life had been driven by ego and the need to prove himself. When the plane touched down in Tokyo, the hum of the engines signaled the end of the journey. But for Oliver, it felt like the beginning of a new chapter in his life. He sat in his seat for a moment longer than necessary, staring blankly at the seatbelt sign as it clicked off. The weight of Elon Musk's words pressed heavily on his chest, leaving him feeling both humbled and inspired. As the other passengers began gathering their belongings and shuffling down the narrow aisle, Oliver found himself lost in thought, replaying the exchange over and over in his mind. Every sentence Elon had uttered seemed to carry layers of meaning that he hadn't fully grasped in the moment. He thought about how he had spent years meticulously crafting a persona that revolved around success, wealth, and external validation. He realized that his constant need to assert his dominance and belittle others wasn't a sign of confidence, but rather of insecurity. Elon's calm demeanor and lack of ego had exposed the fragility of Oliver's own self-worth. Here was a man who had achieved unparalleled success, yet carried himself with an unassuming grace that Oliver could hardly fathom. The quiet power of Elon's humility was transformative, forcing Oliver to confront truths about himself that he had long ignored. As Oliver finally stood up, and retrieved his designer carry-on from the overhead compartment, he couldn't help but glance toward the front of the cabin. Elon Musk had already exited, surrounded by a small but efficient team of airport staff. There was no fanfare, no entourage of photographers or sycophants. It struck Oliver that Elon's greatness didn't require constant recognition. It spoke for itself in his actions, his ideas, and his quiet confidence. That realization hit Oliver like a wave, washing away the shallow pride he had once taken in his material possessions and carefully curated image. Walking through the bustling terminal in Tokyo, Oliver felt a strange sense of clarity. The usual noise and chaos of the airport seemed muted, as if his mind had tuned into a different frequency. He began to reflect on the choices that had led him to this point. He thought about the people he had dismissed or overlooked in his pursuit of success, the moments he had spent boasting instead of listening, and the opportunities for genuine connection he had squandered in his quest to impress. By the time he reached the immigration counter, Oliver had made a quiet but firm decision. He would no longer measure his worth by the size of his bank account, the prestige of his title, or the envy of his peers. Instead, he would focus on the values Elon had subtly exemplified: humility, authenticity, and a dedication to creating something meaningful. He resolved to become a leader who inspired others not through intimidation or arrogance, but through kindness, empathy, and a genuine desire to make the world a better place. As he stepped out into the crisp Tokyo air, the city's neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement, Oliver felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Hope for a future where success wasn't a competition, but a shared journey of growth and innovation. And though he knew the road ahead would be challenging, he felt ready to take the first step. Elon Musk's words had planted a seed of change within him, and for the first time, Oliver was determined to nurture it, not for the sake of appearances, but because it was the right thing to do. This flight had been more than just a journey across the Pacific. It had been a journey inward, one that left Oliver forever changed. And as he walked toward his hotel, the noise of the city buzzing around him, he silently thanked the man in the gray hoodie for teaching him a lesson he hadn't known he needed.